It felt like we were being lifted up, and that's when I remember grabbing my son, just thinking, oh my gosh, is this tornado going to take him away from us?
No, it's mixing, the tornado.
So I immediately just plowed through the water and then realized, like, I'm gonna get swept away. Huge tornado, holy!
World's Wildest Weather. Catastrophic and weird weather events from around the globe filmed on camera by those caught up in the chaos.
Power lines everywhere.
Expert meteorologists explain the causes behind the events and show us why our weather has become so challenging and life-threatening. Mother Nature is flexing her muscles and throwing out some strange weather patterns for us to cope with.
No, I'm not.
On April the 11th, 2016, Wylie in Texas saw one of the strangest weather events captured on camera. The intensity of this storm was off the chart.
Holy cow!
To see something that big come so quickly and do so much destruction.
If it starts to rain now in Wylie, people head indoors. They get inside, they bring their pets inside, they pull their cars into garages.
It was actually a nice day. You could see, it was kind of a clear sky, but you could see off in the distance there were some clouds that were really interesting looking. They're green, blue color.
Wow, look at that.
There are different types of thunderstorms, but the most intense, most violent are the supercell thunderstorms. And with those, you get really huge hail sometimes, and occasionally tornadoes as well.
No, it's mixing, the tornado.
The trash can ran away.
It did?
Large hailstones form in really deep and intense cumulonimbus clouds. Cumulo means heap, nimbus means rain-bearing. But the key feature of these clouds, and they are absolutely huge, they're the mother of all clouds, and their base may be only 3,000 feet, but they will rise to around 20,000 feet. So they can rise up to 6 or 7 miles into the upper atmosphere.
Look, all it's doing is mixing, and then it starts this process with this.
I arrived home just a few minutes before the storm came, and parked my car in the driveway and got out, and I was standing in the middle of the street just admiring the clouds that were coming towards us. You could smell the moisture in the air. And so I was just watching outside. We knew it was going to be a big storm, but not what we expected.
As the ominous clouds rolled in, the people of Wylie just thought it would be an ordinary storm passing through.
It was a normal day. I mean, the day had been actually sunny earlier in the day, and then a storm started to roll in late in the afternoon. It looked like any other Texas storm coming in.
So all it takes is maximum daytime heating around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The thermals really get going, and then all the conditions are right for these huge thunderstorms to develop.
You know, I really didn't notice a change because it was a typical storm, and I knew it might rain, so I didn't really notice anything until the hailstorm started, and it started as little hailstones, and of course that got my attention.
I was standing at our front door because I wanted to watch the hail come. I figured it would be small hail because we knew there was some hail coming.
As it grew and they got bigger, clearly it really triggered my attention. Then I went to the window and eventually started to video with my phone and record the hailstones as they were getting bigger and falling.
Next thing I knew, this big hail rock, it was about the size of a golf ball, grapefruit size, hit my car right on top of the roof and dented the roof in. And I just stood there in amazement.
As big as your eyeball.
I just made it home. Oh my God.
Hailstorms form in cumulonimbus clouds or thunderstorms. These are convective clouds, which means within the cloud itself, the winds, the vertical winds go up and down. So little water droplets at the base of the clouds are picked up and thrown up into the top of the cloud where the temperatures are below freezing, so they freeze. And then downdrafts take them down again and up again, and so these little balls of ice freeze and refreeze, freeze and refreeze, and layers upon layers of ice start building up.
Standing around, I was looking like, all right, it's not too bad. If we still knew more of the storm's coming. My wife came and got me, and she said, our windows are breaking. Covered up our couch and covered up some of our books and stuff because we had a few broken windows that we figured we wanted to protect them from the rain.
The storm hit Wylie on the 11th of April in the afternoon, but no one quite knew how much damage it was going to cause. Around the world, records are constantly broken as wild weather events challenge the Earth and push people to their limits.
Oh, look at this! Look at this! Holy smokes! Where's the cat? I can't find her!
Tornadoes, typhoons, hurricanes are all big hitters amongst the heavyweights of meteorological destruction. But tropical storms don't normally enter the charts of destructive events. However, Tropical Storm Washi was on a different level.
This storm smashed the rule book. When everyone thought the season was over, the worst was yet to come. Washi early on did not have the mark of a deadly beast, but it became one of the deadliest storms in history.
Washi hit the Filipino island of Mindanao on December the 16th, 2011, causing massive devastation.
Typhoon Washi came ashore and it did what you would expect it to do. It produced heavy rainfall, strong winds, and storm surge. But the problem is that it, in some cases, did it overnight. So you had people who were asleep.
Do not underestimate a tropical storm that is deemed weak and hasn't even reached typhoon status. This storm hit mid-December, when most of the worst storms come in around August to October, when sea surface temperatures are at their highest. Typhoons, cyclones and hurricanes are fueled by very, very warm seas, where temperatures are in excess of 27 degrees Celsius. Once you lose that high heat, you lose that fuel source.
For a storm to gain intensity, it needs to stay in the warm waters of the ocean, building up its energy before hitting land.
Tropical storms around the world are categorized by their damaging winds, but Washi's sole sting was waterborne.
Typhoons, hurricanes, cyclones, tropical cyclones, all of them can carry the same threats of storm surge, strong winds, but also the rain. And the rain threat has a lot to do with how quickly that storm is able to move over a specific location. If it moves quickly, then the rainfall totals will be less. There'll still be a lot of rain coming out of this storm, but if it gets stuck and it hangs out over the same area for a number of hours or even days, then it can lead to catastrophic flooding.
These storms are absolutely massive. They're the biggest storms on the planet, raging with wind and rain, and the energy is immense from the lowest part of the cloud right the way up through miles and miles of cloud, wind, hail, thunder and lightning. So there's lots of different parameters and it's hard to model that. But even as we were tracking this tropical storm, we didn't think it was going to pick up any more strength, and it was idly moving along the open waters of the Pacific. But by December the 15th, it had entered Filipino waters and was renamed Sendong. And by this stage, it had strengthened further, and you could really see the definition of the swirl of cloud indicative of storms of this size. But this unrelenting, late in the season, not quite a typhoon, marched ever westward towards the vulnerable shores of Mindanao. This storm really wasn't going to make headlines on the face of it. It was well below typhoon status, and rainfall amounts about 200 millimeters, which an island like Mindanao should be able to cope with. But looking at the detail, the mesoscale, a lot of heavy rain was embedded within this rainfall. And rainfall totals actually exceeded more like 400 millimeters, so double what we were expecting. The rain was intense, and we saw around 10 hours of wet weather, and this island just really couldn't cope with it. The hills acted as a bit of a barrier, so the rain, the volume of water, fell on these hills and pushed down towards the lower reaches of the island. Let me give you this in plain terms. So we're talking 10 hours of intense, intense rain. Very, very quickly, the waters rose. So we're talking 3 meters of water, or 12 feet, in just an hour, well over the heads of all the locals. And that is where it made landfall.
Between the 16th and 19th of December 2011, Tropical Storm Washi devastated over 50,000 homes, and the floods killed nearly 1,300 people, with over 1,000 declared missing.
There is no possible warning that can alert a community to such a disaster. And even worse, it happened at night. So it was darkness and confusion and panic. It was an unimaginable horror, swirling torrents of floodwater, loaded with debris, cars and houses, mud and rocks. Now, most were victims of mudslides. Nature protects itself so well, and on an island where there's hills, obviously trees stop that runoff really raging down the side of a mountain. But there had been a lot of logging. Little communities were then vulnerable to this rain. So this horrific and tragic event of December 2011 was an example of flash flooding at its worst.
As weather becomes more unpredictable around the globe, freaky one-off events are starting to become more commonplace. On the 11th of April 2016, Wylie in Texas was pummeled by giant hailstones.
Bring it on, Mother Nature!
But in the beginning, it had all the attributes of a tornado forming.
Now, what happened in this case, it looks like, is that there was some circulation developing which could have been a precursor to a tornado, and at the same time these giant hailstones were falling down to earth and being picked up by this circulation which was evolving and developing, and hence the reason why they were coming from such a strange direction.
The hail came in horizontally and through our house, and so they believe it was like a tornado that threw the hail in that direction.
As it began to get bigger and the sound increased. It sounded like someone was on the roof of the building with hammers and then a sledgehammer.
These intense storm clouds which formed over Wylie are cumulonimbus clouds, which are connected with atmospheric instability, thunderstorms, and tornadoes.
Key feature of these cumulonimbus clouds is the updrafts and downdrafts. They become violent. Updrafts, wind going vertically upwards, and then vice versa, the wind coming downwards. And when you get a circulation like that going round and round and round, little water droplets get picked up by these winds, thrown up into the upper atmosphere where the temperature could be -60 in places. So you can imagine the circulation going on there. And that's when we get these really big hailstones. It's the freezing and melting of water droplets.
It was so loud, you couldn't hear much. It was so noisy. The way it was it's kind of like your roof being redone.
In a really big storm cloud where we see these gigantic hailstones, the updrafts can be up to 100 miles an hour in some places. Really dangerous conditions. And you can imagine there's so much momentum and energy within the system. The circulation just keeps on fulfilling itself until these hailstones become so heavy, gravity eventually does take over, or it gets picked up by a very strong downdraft, and then they get thrown to earth violently.
Get down!
We just couldn't hear very much. I couldn't really hear my kids screaming, but they were screaming.
I cannot believe it.
I am shocked. I've never seen a storm like that before, never experienced anything like this before.
Stay out of the kitchen.
Glass was coming in. Glass was in my hair. It made it all the way across our house. Our whole house was covered with glass shards. I started worrying about my family. We put them in the closet underneath the stairs. That's the most protective part we have in our whole house. I remember when the windows were breaking, we could hear our bird chirping, and the kids everybody's like, "Get Jefferson!" And so it was just like, I ran over and I just reached inside the bird cage, grabbed the bird, and I tossed the bird into the closet with the kids.
Hey guys, it's okay. Just stay there. Be safe. It's okay. You're safe right there. You're totally safe, okay?
As the hailstones got bigger, and to hear them start to break through glass, and really the sound of destruction overtook the sound of the storm pretty quickly.
I did feel like that this is it. Our house is probably going to be destroyed. Usually tornadoes come with hail, and as loud as it was and as large a hail that was coming through our house, I thought that our house was, and the sound, I thought our roof was being torn off the house and that our house was going to collapse.
So in the US, hailstones are defined as damaging if they come as large as 1 to 2 inches, which is about a golf ball size. But in the case of Wylie, some of these hailstones were the size of an orange.
The house, it had hundreds of holes through the roof that you could put your fist through. We got to put blue tarps on the roof. I mean, they went through the roof. We lost about 14, 15 windows that got blown out.
Windows are all smashed. Here's some of the hail that fell.
They're wide open holes.
We've got holes in our slide. There's holes and dents all over the metal roof trailer.
It really wasn't until it hit, and when hailstones are coming through the roof and through the ceiling of the rooms, that you realized how bad it was.
In the space of a few minutes, 80% of the houses in Wylie suffered catastrophic damage.
The fact that no one was killed in this storm really is a miracle, that no lives were lost. Animals were killed, farm animals, some pets that were outside, but there was not a single life lost in the catastrophe as bad as it was.
Well, we are definitely going to have some roof damage here. And I would say we probably have some siding damage and like 50 broken windows that are still shattering glass everywhere. We need to go upstairs and see if there's any of those that are broken.
I've seen homes that have been destroyed by tornadoes. I've been in areas that have been destroyed, but to see hail of this size and to come through at such force and do so much destruction is just mind-boggling.
12,000 homes were damaged by the giant hailstone storm, and hundreds of cars were completely trashed. It was an amazing and destructive weather event. The people of Rowlett in Texas were relaxing after the celebrations of Christmas Day and weren't anticipating the tornado which struck in the darkness on the 26th of December, 2015.
I was just holding on to my son, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, are we gonna die?
Oh gosh.
I can hear it tearing up everything.
When you see tornado destruction up close like that, it seems almost like Armageddon.
Rowlett, Texas was terrible, first of all, just because of the time of year. It happened right around the holidays at the end of December, heading into the new year, and it went through this big tornado that developed through a very developed part of Texas. This part of Texas itself is relatively rural, but once you get into the neighborhoods, into the towns that are developed, that's when you have a high density of homes and people in a small area. And unfortunately, the Rowlett tornado track took it right up the gut. of the town, and it hit and impacted so many homes and roads and people that were in the way, and during the holiday season. So you had a lot of folks that were maybe not paying attention as much to weather because they were focused on other things, their family and friends. And then this event took place right at a very difficult time of year.
The day before the tornado, it was Christmas, and we had some family time, and all the family got together. But the weather was a little bit unusual for December. It was very warm and muggy. Everybody was dressed in shorts, short sleeves, and just because it was so warm, very humid.
There are a variety of ways that a tornado can form, so let's just start with the most basic way. You are going to need instability, meaning that the air is going to be wanting to rise or drop. You generally get that with heating of the ground, and then air starts to rise. It has moisture to pull from, and that moisture rises, cools, condenses, and forms clouds. As those clouds form, generally you're getting really strong updrafts, meaning air moving up in a draft all the way up through this storm, and it forms a column of air. And as it continues to rise, it can go up tens of thousands of feet very quickly.
Forecasts slowly evolved through the day, but during the morning, the atmospheric profile didn't lend itself to deep convection. There was something called a lid or a cap on the lower part of the atmosphere, a tongue of warm air which inhibited any development and air rising right the way through the atmosphere, creating these huge clouds. But as that tongue was eroded away through the morning into the first part of the afternoon, the conditions were set. So that was the final piece in the jigsaw. And once that cap had been cleared, then tornadoes developed very quickly.
Oh my God!
We had already opened all the gifts from Christmas. We were just hanging out, but the weather outside was a bit unusual still for December, just like the day before. Very warm, muggy, cloudy, windy, just very different.
Generally, you want moisture. Good moisture. You need dew point temperatures, meaning the availability of moisture in the air, to be up above 65 degrees Fahrenheit into that 70-degree Fahrenheit range. But you don't want it to be too hot, because then you're spreading out the air temperature from your moisture too much. So 80 degrees Fahrenheit air temperature to about 90 degrees is a good sweet spot for you to get that. So when you have those two pieces together, that allows you to have what's called the available energy to serve as fuel for that thunderstorm.
The Rowlett tornado caught everyone by surprise. It was in December, not known as a month for tornado activity, and it was much later in the day when it struck the town.
I want to see it.
I know, girl,
It's going down 66 right now.
I'd given up on the day as the sun had set, and it was kind of heading home. But, we kind of expected tornadoes, but I thought the day had been a bust. Typical December is outside of the normal tornado time frame in North Texas.
I was watching the news, and then that's when they said, confirmed tornado heading north of 30 in Rowlett.
Next thing I know, I'm on a monster storm with a monster tornado going through a populated area.
My boyfriend actually came home. We kind of both realized that there was a tornado on the ground, but he saw it.
Holy smokes. Oh my gosh.
He had gone all the way to the corner, and he saw it coming towards us, heading north towards us.
The Rowlett tornado hit in the darkness. People had absolutely no clue what was coming their way.
Huge tornado. Holy
Traditionally, people have become adjusted to fairly rigid, fixed weather patterns. But more recently, our climate has become irregular and erratic. Humans are learning how to face these haphazard weather events. In the United States, the Colorado floods of September 2013 are one such event, when no one could have predicted how destructive it was going to be.
You don't appreciate the power of water until you see it raging down the side of a mountain, just taking out everything in its path.
So I immediately just plowed through the water and then realized, I'm gonna get swept away.
We literally lost every bit of our infrastructure, and the entire town had to evacuate.
Floods are the most deadly of weather phenomena in the USA, killing more people than any other weather system. Water is a major force of nature to be reckoned with.
The sort of rains across the state during the middle part of September were more likely the sort of monsoon rain you see in India or the tropics, not the interior of the USA. This was an incredibly extensive and intensive weather event. Extensive because the floodwater extended 200 miles north to south, and intensive because on one day alone, Boulder saw 8 inches of rain. That's almost 3 times as much rain as they expect in the wettest months of the year.
The weather was actually very beautiful. The temperature was in the high 70s. It was a beautiful day. I had shorts and a t-shirt on. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. There was no indication of a storm coming.
I don't think there was even anything in the forecast for inclement weather that day. I think that's why it was so surprising. Just a normal September, early September afternoon.
In Colorado, usually in the summer and early fall, in the afternoon we may get a shower that lasts, about a half an hour. But it's a light shower and then the sun comes right back out. It's usually not a big deal.
Beginning of September 2013 was fine. It was lovely, warm, very warm indeed, with lots of sunshine. People were out and about and celebrating early fall. But then all changed during the second week of September. An area of low pressure moved in. It was a very slow moving area of low pressure, so the rain was going to be prolonged. But there was an extra element, and that was a feed of very warm and moist air from the Gulf of Mexico, fueling the weather system and allowing more rain to fall. So we have the combination of a lot of rain, a slow-moving weather system, and a continual feed of very warm and moist air from the Gulf of Mexico. And these elements all combined created a horrific flash flooding event. If you look at the topography or the geography of the area and where Colorado sits, we've got the Rockies just to the west of the state. So that acts pretty much as a barrier. This weather system had nowhere to go. The Rockies to the west, a high to the north and to the east. It just stayed where it was, dumping a huge amount of rainfall across this zone. And that's the reason why there was so much rain across this part of Colorado, 17 counties. A huge amount of rain over 3 days, making it record-breaking.
I was picking up my daughter from school when the storm started. When I pulled into the parking lot, again, not a cloud in the sky. As soon as the bell rang and we got back to the car, all of a sudden, the rain and the hail just came down like crazy.
It wasn't a lot of rain, it was just immediately just tons and tons of hail. Real small hail, but it was piling up very fast and just felt kind of like a microburst. My truck and trailer were kind of shaking around.
What we mean when we talk about flash flooding, we're talking about a lot of rain in a small area where flooding occurs, but within 6 hours. However, most flash flooding occurs within minutes rather than hours.
The rain and the hail got so bad that I could not see in front of us. So I pulled the car over, and about 2 minutes later, the flood water got so high, and it was running so quickly that it picked up my car, pulled us into the middle of an intersection, which at that point became a lake. The flood water was rising so quickly in the car, it was filling up the cup holders, and we were going under.
It can be very hard to forecast flash flooding. It tends to be very localized effect, but some places are more prone to it than others. The other strange aspect of flash flooding, the rain arrives fast, the water level goes up really quickly, and then all of a sudden it disappears again.
Intense rain and hail was blocking the storm drains. Stephanie feared for their lives as the car began to float.
And I remember getting to what I thought looked like the street flooded out. That's where I saw a car kind of floating in the middle of the intersection. That's when it kind of kicked in for me that there was actually somebody in there and she was trying to get out.
As soon as the water hit my thighs when I was sitting in the front seat, I knew it was time to get out of the car. McKenna was very frightened. She had her hands over her ears because the sound of the hail on the top of the car was so loud. It was a very frightening time for us both.
I felt like I just jumped into action and I didn't think about protecting myself, how deep it was. It was literally just locked on to her and her daughter. I immediately just plowed through the water and then realized, like, I'm gonna get swept away. And so I started to back away, and I could sense it, that she was like, where are you going? It was really hard to get out to her. It was very turbulent too, because water was coming in basically from 3 directions, up the hills, both sides, and to the left, and then shooting off to the right where it was backed up.
At that point, he got out of his car. He opened up his passenger door, and he is holding on for dear life himself, wading himself into the water. He just walked very slowly, and he was gripping his truck very tightly all the way to the very end of the truck bed. And luckily he got close enough that I could hand him McKenna, and he put McKenna in the back of his car, just held her like a baby. And then he came back for me. He was the only one that helped.
The water flowed away as quickly as it arrived in Lakewood, but the rest of Colorado was not prepared for the worst floods in recorded memory. The people of Rowlett, Texas, were also caught out when an EF4 tornado with wind speeds of 180 miles per hour struck the town.
This was a pretty severe storm as it came into the suburbs of Garland and Rowlett.
Lindsay Diaz was at home after enjoying Christmas with her son and boyfriend.
He closed the door, he said that it's right outside, and I, always being intrigued by tornadoes, wanted to go see it. So I ran out to the front. Of course, it was dark. I couldn't see anything, and it was a very odd wind. It was just very still, but around me it was kind of like the wind was blowing around. It was just spinning, kind of.
Yep, another transformer and another one. We're gonna be without power all night. Holy smokes. Oh my gosh.
A tornado is a violently rotating column of air that connects from a cloud to the ground, and you have to have that connection for it to be called a tornado. You also are going to need something that causes that rising column of air to tilt just a little and start to spin. That's called wind shear. Different wind speeds and also directions at different heights up above the ground. So it's like you've taken a cake with different layers and then you've tilted it and then spun it just a little bit. So it's a tilted, rotating column of air. As that main updraft goes up into the thunderstorm, you're generally going to see the entire storm start to spin. So now it's no longer what we call a cell, just one isolated thunderstorm. It's become this massive supercell that's spinning.
A lot of people that were just going about their business and they had no idea what was about to hit them.
I came running back in, I slammed the door, closed it. My son and my boyfriend were already in the bathroom and he was waiting for me, and so I grabbed my phone and then we went to the bathtub, and I told him, I said, go get the mattress, because I've always been told, get in the bathtub, put a mattress on top, and he said, I don't have time. I'm gonna get some pillows. So he grabbed all the pillows that he could, and we jumped in.
That's Rowlett. That's Rowlett. They say touchdown to Rowlett.
I hadn't seen it until it started hitting power lines, and it illuminated the entire funnel each time it hit power lines.
It seemed like it hit almost as soon as we got in the bathtub, like literally seconds. All I could hear was everything being broken and thrown against the wall, and just a lot of wind, and just all kinds of things moving.
Oh my gosh!
I couldn't see anything. I was holding my son, and I had my eyes closed, and I was just buried, just kind of hunkered down and curled up in the bathtub, so I couldn't see it. I didn't even see the lights go out.
Oh my gosh! Oh wow! No!
Tornadoes are categorized depending on how much damage they cause in an area. So we start with EF0, and it can actually go up to EF6, Enhanced Fujita scale. Fujita from the man who named it in the first place. At its most violent, this tornado reached maximum wind speeds of 180 miles an hour, making it an EF4 and a record-breaking tornado in Texas in December.
It was the noise, basically, that let us know that the tornado was coming through. I do remember a point where it felt like we were being lifted up, and that's when I remember grabbing my son harder, holding on to him tighter, and just thinking, oh my gosh, are we gonna be sucked up? Is this tornado gonna take him away from us?
A typical tornado, which has wind speeds of around 150 to 200 miles an hour, there's a lot of energy entrained within that system, up to around 1 billion watts, which is equivalent of a coal-sized power station, which would generate electricity for a small country.
As I approached the tornado, I got really somewhat close to the funnel as it crossed State Highway 66. At one point, I got out of my car to make sure that people were okay. There was a car that was on the road and very smashed up, like it had been hit by the tornado. And I'm not sure exactly where that had even come from, but I'm guessing from the neighborhood behind the road. It hit power lines and you know, completely blew sparks from the power lines.
Holy shit.
Even with the small tornadoes, there's the risk that if you're in a vehicle that you could be tossed, you could be blown. If you're out in the open, there's debris that's flying at high speed towards you.
How bad are you bleeding?
I don't know, it's all down my back.
Okay.
It was a big piece of wood.
Did it hit you?
Yeah, it hit my arm, but...
With the big ones, you have to be in a sheltered, secure place. Generally, a well-built structure, concrete's best. Below ground is ideal. It's best to be at the innermost room, lowest level of whatever structure you're in.
We settled back, and it just became quiet. That's how we knew it was finally over.
Seeing tornado destruction up close is not really a fun thing to do. You're basically seeing people's lives being destroyed.
It was very dark, couldn't see, so I had to shine my cell phone light into the house, and that's when I saw that, you know, everything, all the windows were broken. My Christmas tree had toppled down. All of my items, all of my furniture was just flipped upside down, broken. There was just stuff everywhere.
Neighborhoods are unrecognizable. Buildings are, you know, completely smashed. It looks like total destruction.
We all went outside together, and it was, all the neighbors were just coming out slowly and just in complete awe, and just couldn't believe what was going on.
Y'all okay?
The Rowlett tornado's destructive path was 13 miles long through Dallas County and caused the tragic deaths of 10 people, destroying 1,296 homes and causing $1.2 billion worth of damage along the way. In September 2013, the US state of Colorado was being drenched by some of the heaviest rainfall on record, resulting in one of the biggest evacuations since Hurricane Katrina.
There were 700 people that were evacuated by Chinook helicopters, and at the time it was the largest aerial evacuation since Hurricane Katrina.
This event was so widespread that emergency responders were overwhelmed and just couldn't get to everyone that was calling in who needed help.
The reality is, we cannot support you in town. You need to leave, find somewhere else to stay for 2 to 4 weeks, and that's a wild-ass guess.
Over that 3-day period in Boulder alone, up to the 12th of September, it smashed all records, that's rainfall records. Not only that, on the 12th of September, Boulder Creek had its highest water level since records began back in 1894. This storm was a combination of a slow-moving area of low pressure loaded with moisture, with the Colorado Mountains or the Rockies to one side.
We're used to seeing rains in the afternoon during the summer, and normally we can wear our shorts and continue on with our day. They're really non-events. But in September of 2013, a low-pressure system just parked. It just stopped and stalled over the state of Colorado. And this was after we'd already received over a week of rain. So the ground was already saturated before the flooding began.
I kind of remember thinking to myself, gosh, this is about the third day or so of cloudy and rain that we've had.
With the ground completely sodden and the low-pressure system stalled, the risk of flooding had increased dramatically. But no one was prepared for the intensity of the flood and the destruction it was about to wreak over 200 square miles.
With an intense rainfall event, and with the rain falling onto hillsides or mountainsides, then you get so much rain. Sheer volume of rain creates a huge amount of momentum and energy. The rain is splashing, flowing down the mountainside, and because there's so much energy and acceleration, it picks up boulders, any buildings, rocks and trees, adding to the acceleration and also to the sheer power.
You know, an event like this is bad enough, but when it strikes in the middle of the night when most people are asleep and they have no idea that it's even happening, it's really hard to grasp the significance of it.
Here we are, 6:30 in the morning, September 12th.
You know, a lot of people were really just asleep and had no idea what happened until they got up the next morning. The creek that runs through our town, especially that time of year in September, which is typically a really low flow time of year, literally up 12 feet, 15 feet, and almost coming over a bridge by our house. It was remarkable, and you almost had a hard time processing what you were seeing.
There was so much water near the foothills communities where the rivers converge that the water literally washed away homes. Cars looked like balls of aluminum foil.
The power of water is immense and shouldn't be underestimated. Just 6 inches of fast-flowing water will knock over and carry a grown adult away. 12 inches of fast-flowing water will carry away a car. 18 to 24 inches will take with it a large SUV, a van, or a truck.
You don't appreciate the power of water until you see it raging down the side of a mountain, just taking out everything in its path.
By the 4th day, up to 17 inches of rain had fallen in the area, and the town of Lyons took a huge hit.
Some areas had as much as 9 inches of rain in the evening, and it just went down the rivers, raging down the rivers. It tore apart roads, it overflowed farms, and washed out entire communities because it was just too much rain too fast.
Lyons lost power, its roads were washed away, and it was cut off from the outside world.
One of the unique things about this flood in Lyons is being a mountainous area connected by roads and bridges. A lot of our bridges and roads were washed out by the flood, so it essentially divided the town up into 5 different islands where people were stranded. It was that clear that evening that this was a significant event, and they declared it a federal disaster.
Resources are very, very limited. The people we have helping us now, we may not have tomorrow, because everybody else needs them as well.
So for 24 counties to be impacted and for 3 counties to have huge rescue operations, including high water vehicles and Chinook helicopters and Black Hawk helicopters, it felt like a military invasion in the skies. The floods overall created approximately $4 billion in damage across the state.
We expect to spend about $80 million total repairing all of the damage that's been done to the town. And to date, we've probably spent $35 million of that.
The Colorado floods spread over 200 miles and 18 counties. A disaster emergency declaration was issued for 14 counties, including Lyons.
One of the saddest things about the floods, especially for the Lyons community, is there are about 100 people who were never able to return home. Sadly, Lyons lost a good part of their character of their community that day, and many of those people have not been able to return. I've just seen truly the best of humanity. And so I just hope that when this happens again, that people who've been through it in my community can go help others. The thing that's amazing when something like this happens, it's completely out of your control. And I mean, Mother Nature, we can't tame her. It's completely out of our control.